Okay, we're live. All right. Hello. Oh, this is interesting. I've got messages from 4 different people: Jeff Phillips, Barry Wells, Darren Weatherlit, Steve Clark, now Cliff Young, adding here. And okay, we've got 6 people watching. This is our Saturday. I'm going to try and make this regular. We'll see how that works out, where I answer the Ask Dave questions. I have an email address set up special for this. It's hamradioanswers@gmail.com. That's hamradioanswers@gmail.com. And those go to an account, and I'm running quite a bit behind on this. This is all of the messages that I'm behind on right there. That takes us up to date in November. So let me get the comments where I can hear them. Good morning to everybody. Also Jeff Wick, Dan Trainer, KJ4DWX, Alan Cowley, Russell Reedy. Wow, it's good to see you guys today. 18 people watching. So there are just a thing or two to discuss before we dive into the questions. First has to do with this sponsor that is giving us $100 a month to put up their website in every video. I'm kind of curious if anybody has actually gone there and checked. It's lcsc.com. They're a parts supplier. I think sort of the Chinese equivalent of Gigapart, not Gigaparts. Now I forget. I should have written that down. DigiKey, an equivalent of that. DigiKey is an organization that has every part known to mankind, and apparently this does too. And the parts might be less expensive or no. I just like to know from people who get that. The rim of hell in Boron, California. Well, it shouldn't be now. It should be nice and warm as opposed to scorching hot. All you people in California with that air pollution, we feel very badly about that. I grew up in California. Was born in Modesto and grew up in the Southern California town of Glendale, and went to high school in La Crescenta, and lived for a while in Simi Valley when I worked for Northrop Grumman. It was just called Northrop then. Aloha from Hawaii, also to you, Larry Sanbo. Aloha, welcome. The website name again is lcsc.com. lcsc.com. And so it's time for me to submit my second bill for my second month of sponsoring, and I just want to make sure that people enjoy that. Let's see. With the fan dipole, how does the RF know what legs to go down depending on frequency? It's a mystery to me. You would have to model the antenna. You're going to get some action in all of the legs, but they're going to be highly reactive if they're not the one that's resonant. So you're going to have, say, you have 80, 40, and 30 on a fan dipole. Okay, and you're transmitting on 40. The 40 meter one is resonant. The other two are not. They're very reactive. And so what they do is they take energy and then give it back. Take energy and then give it back. And so if you get the tuning right on the thing, the resonant one is the only one that actually transmits. To speak of Modesto, yeah. What's wrong with Modesto? It's in the geographic center of the state. I understand now it's just a bedroom community for those working in the East Bay area. Okay, let's dive into these right now. We've got quite a few. We'll go about an hour, and we'll keep doing this. When I get caught up, then I can do just the ones that came in the previous week. We can spend a little bit more on that. T3FD, what's that? Your thoughts on T3FD? I don't know why it doesn't. Maybe the battery went. I don't know. Huh. Just made a 40-20 fan dipole and it's working great. Good for you. That's great. Okay, this one is actually from September 24th, from Vic Nishaiba. My son Patrick is planning on hiking the Colorado, who is a ham, is planning on hiking the Colorado Trail the summer of 2019. I'll be driving the support vehicle. We would like to stay in touch with each other via radio. He'll be carrying an HT with the minimally necessary accessories. I've been researching to determine if there are repeaters that allow 20 meters under 70 centimeters along the entire route. No, I don't think so. And to determine if there are roads to include Forest Service roads that allow me to drive to locations to meet up with him. Yes, there are. The Colorado Trail, I think, kind of goes along the Continental Divide. If he has a handheld, get him the 19-inch whip and get a handheld that can put a little bit of oomph behind it. The UV 8000E, I think, puts out 10 watts. Now, that means that in the support vehicle, you need to have a mobile with an antenna up on the roof, like a 5/8 whip that will have a bit of gain, and a 50-watt mobile, because your mobile antenna and radio will be doing most of the work. It can go up to 10 miles. When you're in the mountains, it may be only a few miles, but it will depend very much on propagation. Obviously, there are some repeaters that do cover the area, so you'd like to have those in there. You need to have some sort of a calling protocol. For example, he calls you on the hour and on the half hour, and you call him at 15 minutes after and 15 minutes before. You know, something like that, so there's no question of who's trying to transmit, who's trying to receive at once. Okay, well, hope that Patrick enjoys that hike and that you enjoy being his support for that. That's great. Let's see. Retired from Stanislaus County. Oh, yes. My dad once took me camping on the North Fork of the Stanislaus River up in the Sierra Nevada mountain range that he's been in love with all of his life. He's in a rest home in Utah right now. He's 93. Greetings from Munich, Germany. Good to see you. Terminated 3-wire folded dipole FT3D. I've not heard of that one. Can I hang a 40-meter dipole under a G5RV Junior? I guess my question is why the G5RV Junior would operate on 40 meters. If you put a wire underneath it, you would sort of turn it into a Yagi kind of thing pointed straight up. That might be good for NVIS if that's what you're trying to do. Okay, this is from Jacob Gibbons. It says, I'm a new ham and have a Baofeng BF F9V2 Plus. I'm not familiar with that one. I have watched a few videos about increasing the receive for weak signals by adding a counterpoise rat tail. Yes, that works. I added one to my HT and now can hear stations that I couldn't hear before. Yeah, you're actually sort of turning that little vertical antenna into a vertical dipole, and it's a perfectly legitimate thing to do. Does it improve transmit strength as well? Yes. Does it matter if it is straight or bent? Not so much. What angle might work best? Just let it dangle down, and I would suggest 19 inches. Okay, greetings from Powys in Wales. First time I've caught one of these lives. Don't have a call sign yet, as I am to sit my RSGB Foundation exam, which will be in a few weeks. Well, Torin, absolute best of luck to you. And I'm going to give you the same advice I give everybody who doesn't quite yet have their license. Don't procure any equipment until you've passed your license. And focus your attention on studying. That's great. We've got 52 people watching now. Okay, from Billy King. Are you able to program a radio for me? Of course, I would pay you for services. It's a Baofeng UV9R. Please advise. Billy, I don't do that. I would recommend getting with the people in your local club and finding out how to do that. I am unable to answer real specific things or do things for specific people. I really apologize. Find somebody local who can do that. He's in the 541 area code. So see if you can put that thing together. Yeah. You know, I used to be in IT, and that's information technology, and I've had people come to me and say, Dave, I need you to fix this computer. And I said, okay, I'll fix it, but it'll be $50 an hour. And they say, well, why do you charge $50 an hour? I says, that's actually less than I should charge. The reason I'm charging is because I don't want to do it. Go take it to some computer expert and deal with it. You know, the problem is there's so much detective work. The answer to a problem may be setting a single parameter, but finding that parameter can take hours, I'm afraid. I'm sorry about that. Albany, New York. WindCamp 3000 milliamp hour, in other words, a 3 amp hour battery in the 817ND. Do you have any experiences with them? I don't. If the reviews seem positive, that's pretty good. Good. Okay. Here is from Jay Johnson, KI7EEC. Says, I'm going to be moving into a new house early next month in Arizona. Unfortunately, there's an HOA. Oh, don't we love those? And they have a prohibition on any antenna that can be seen. And I think the answer lies right there. Put up an antenna that cannot be seen. For example, a very thin wire, or you can stick a buddy pole behind a plant, or something like that. Dipole or end-fed in the attic, and then he remembers that there is some metal up in there in the roof itself that may prohibit radiation. The metallic radiant barrier will affect your ham transmissions. Yes. Will it keep me from transmitting altogether? That reminds me of something that I saw once on the internet. It was about solar panels. And the thing says, solar panels keep producing electricity even when the clouds are overhead. Well, that's technically true. They do. But it's greatly diminished. Greatly diminished. And so these people who were saying that solar clouds continue to produce power when the sun isn't shining are prevaricating. You know, they're saying something that is strictly true, but without qualifying it properly. Because in the clouds, the clouds can cut out as much as 80 or 90% of the light, and in so doing, they will cut out 80 to 90% of the current output of the transceivers. So we're having this kind of thing here. Will your signal get out? Yes. Will enough of it get out to be useful? I don't think so. So try and put something outside. I have a picture somewhere of a guy who installed a loop antenna, it was the MFJ loop antenna, up on a pole and hung bird feeders from it, and was able to operate just fine with that. Let's see what we've got here. Thank you for all you do for ham radio. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let's see. I know if you came to our local club, more than happy to help you program. Yeah, if I were in your local club, I have helped people in the local club. Mag loop, yeah, magnetic loop. Load up the radiant barrier and use it as a screen array. Yeah. I have heard of people who have loaded up the gutters. I want to hang a multiband dipole over my house roof. Yes, the roof will affect it, especially if it's metal. The only thing I can say is give it a try. Multiband dipoles that are less than a half wavelength high will have a fairly high angle of radiation, but that's okay. You can still work lots of heaven. That's a DM1. Is that German? There are lots and lots and lots of hams in Europe, so you should do fairly well, even with the high angle of radiation. Okay, this is from Gary Sewell. It says, Dave, I have a Hustler 6 BTV vertical. My question is, should I use a ground rod at the base or not to connect the radials and antenna to? You certainly can. Will it help the performance? I don't think so. I think the radials will do more. Although it's nice to have the radials well grounded. I know on my vertical antenna, which is a Butternut HF9V, I have the radials well grounded right at the base of the antenna. So yeah, it may improve it slightly. The best way to find out is to try. I don't think it'll make more than a dB or so difference in the performance if you've got a lot of radials. Okay, this is from Sassy Cacase, and I don't see a call sign here. One of your followers on YouTube, just today I got my license. Congratulations. That was due September 29th, by the way. Looking to buy a DMR that is Mac compatible. All the DMR radios that I have seen so far, the software runs on Windows. Does anybody out there know of any any DMR radios that have Mac software for them? Unfortunately, Chirp doesn't program DMR. And I spoke to, there's RT Systems is a competitor of Chirp's, but you have to pay for RT Systems. I met the guy in charge of RT Systems at the Albuquerque Hamfest, and I said, you've got to deal with digital radios. He said, oh, yeah. And I said, no, you've got to deal with digital radios. They are the wave of the future. Hello, Theo. Thanks for your support. Let's see. I just sort of picked up there. Want to hang the the roof. Yes, it will. If you have a metal roof, stick a vertical up there. So I don't know of any. Let's see here from Andy Cowley. The TYT380 has support for the Mac. Okay, so Stacey, that is your answer then. Try the TYT380. See what you can do with that. Okay. This next one comes from Dennis Volker. He says, how do you scan on a TYT UV8000D? I did a video on the 8000E, and the only difference between the D and the E is the crossband repeater function. So if you go to that video, I believe I talk in there about how to scan, and I got it out of the owner's manual. So it's in the owner's manual. Give it a try, or check that video. Okay, let's see here. Dick Anderson, KE7A. Okay, watched your video review of the 1886 receive loop. Yes, I use it. There is an ad in the October from MFJ that promotes the loop to work 2200 and 630 meters. I have not tried it on those low bands. I've got it all set up here with my SDR. I've got a SDR Play box over here that either takes the RF receive output of my FTDX 3000, so it's looking at the same thing the radio is looking at, and I can also put it on that MFJ antenna outdoors. There is nothing in there that would prohibit it from working at those low frequencies. You know, I'm going to set this one aside. I think this would make a nice Ask Dave video. So I'm going to set that one aside and we'll see what we can do on that. Let's see here. From Anarella in Seattle, passed my tech test Sunday. Congratulations. My local club and your videos were a great help, not just passing the test, but actually understanding the material. Now waiting for my call sign and the Baofeng I ordered. Well, good deal, and welcome to Ham Radio. Okay, Claudio Molinari asks about counterpoises. A counterpoise, kind of like a radial, and so it should be a quarter wavelength long. The MFJ makes a product called an artificial ground. It's really an adjustable counterpoise. You need a counterpoise on it, but then you can use, subtract some reactive components to actually make that thing resonant. And then it really does act as a radio. I remember many years ago I was trying to transmit 20 meters from an apartment I was in when I was in the Air Force, and I added a counterpoise to get rid of the RF in the apartment. But a counterpoise ideally should be a quarter wavelength. From Bob the Builder, hi Dave, thanks for all you do for ham radio. Thank you. Question is, when mounting a 2 meter 70 centimeter mobile antenna, does mounting location on the vehicle affect the radiation pattern very much? Yes, it does. Cars are not circular, therefore the radiation pattern is not going to be circular either. You may find at times that you're just not getting what you want to get, but I think that's one of the reasons that mobile rigs have a fair amount of power, so even if you're radiating off the side on that, you can still catch most anything. Okay, sorry, log equals long. Studying now for my ham ticket now, learned a lot. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, John. I really enjoy this, actually. This is quite a bit of fun. Hi, everyone. Just got running in a bit late. Dave from the UK. Hello. And thanks for the channel. Let's see. Okay there, Andy. Good job. Suggestions on grounding a second-story level shack without the ground becoming an antenna itself. Well, the ground isn't going to become an antenna, but it can absorb a lot of energy and just dissipate it as heat. What I recommend is you run the coax from your antenna to a ground where you have a lightning arrestor, and then running it from there into the house and to your shack. I know that sometimes means a lot of coax, but that is what I recommend for grounding safety purposes. Okay, this one is from Brian Schul, KC9 GFR. Good morning, enjoy your videos. Just watch your video on hotspots, but I am looking to connect my hotspot to a certain repeater. Been out of D-Star for a year and just soaking back up how to use it. The repeater's 35 miles away from me and I would like to connect to it from my hotspot. Brian, that's not really the way they work. A hotspot is kind of a substitute for a repeater. And what you're connecting to with the hotspot, if it's DMR, you're connecting to a talk group. Now that talk group might be in use by your local repeater, and it is also, by its very nature, in use by many other repeaters, often worldwide. So you can get into any talk group. Now, if your repeater just uses one talk group, like TAC 310 or something like that, and you connect your hotspot to TAC 310, you'll be using your local repeater. along with every other repeater in the world that's using TAC 310 at the time. And you're talking about D-Star. I believe, I'm not sure, the concept for D-Star is the room. And the hotspot connects you to the room, not to a specific repeater. So this is not an extension of your repeater. It is an extension of the D-Star or DMR system there. Dan, thank you for your kind words. Dave, enjoying your live session. That was great. Okay, oh, that was that one there. Okay. From John Egertson. I'm looking for a call sign, don't see one. Watching your videos, there is one question I haven't seen asked or answered. If you've already covered it, please send me the link to the video. I just passed both the tech and the general and want to explore multiple facets of ham radio. I live in a Covenant neighborhood. Oh boy, that is so hard to deal with that. So I need an antenna that will work well and cover 80 meters to 2 meters and 70 centimeters, that I can either keep low to the ground, 6 feet or less, that I can hide in a small attic. Well, you've got a number of nice requirements. Unfortunately, it's one of those cases where, you know, pick 2 out of 3 because you can't have the third one. Normally an antenna, an HF antenna, if it's a vertical, will cover like 80 meters to 10 meters. And then you need another antenna for VHF and UHF. Finding dual band antennas that cover 2 meters and 70 centimeters is very easy. Those are quite inexpensive. Check MFJ, check any QST ad or CQ magazine or whatever. There's a bunch of them in there. You want to keep low to the ground, 6 feet or less. If you can get it up to like 25 feet, check out a ground-mounted Cushcraft AV640 or something like that. Otherwise, you're going to need to go with like something like a buddy pole behind a bush. There are lots of people who deal with that. The American Radio Relay League has a few books on nearly invisible antennas. So sort through the store in the antenna section there and see if you can find something that you think might interest you. Okay, this one is from Richard. Richard Hibbert. Could you do a video on antennas such as the 05 and the gap systems? I've never used them, and I don't want to do a video on something I haven't actually used. Let me set that aside and see what we can do maybe in a future video. Okay, this is from John Edwards, N5UUA. And he says, notice that you live near Silverton, Colorado. He has somebody, cousin, living there. Wondering if I know him. I don't. Sorry. Today I heard a ham operator telling another about your videos, and so I looked you up. Well, good, John, and I hope you subscribed. When you subscribe, you become a follower of the OG channel right here and become an Augie, and that's great. Super. Okay, Don Bauer, N8VCK, and this one is in October. We're in October now. This is October 8th. Hello, my question is, I have an Antron 99 antenna that's been used for 10 meters and 20 meters with a tuner. My question is, it is very old, and winds from the southwest and west have caused the antenna to gradually bend. Should I leave it alone, or should I turn it 180 degrees so it's leaning into the wind? I am thinking turning it will help extend its life. And he doesn't have the income to really replace it. Yeah, go ahead and turn it around. I will tell you that aluminum, once bent, becomes weak. Okay, so I'd go ahead and turn the thing around, but at some point you might want to run some guy rope up toward the top of that antenna, or about 2/3 of the way up. So that way the guys keep it from being bent too much more. All aluminum will doing that. Yes, good resource for learning Morse code. Try check out, let's see, what is the name of that trainer? G4FON. Look that up on YouTube. You'll find the G4FON trainer. Follow its method. It's pretty good. It's an ancient piece of software, but it does work. A live session, let's see, check out the new Redivus video from N3NDX. Okay, David Kessler, whenever you say Augie, I feel like responding, Augie, 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 oi, oi, oi. Sure, why not? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Aluminum bends with the wind, and every time it bends, that aluminum in there is starting to form little crystals. And those little crystals, after they add up, just weaken and weaken and weaken it, and finally it will go over. So if you can reduce the amount of bending, that can help the aluminum last longer. Okay, this is Greg Esser. He's purchasing an old 1970s era set of Drake Twins. Oh my. I learned on Drake Twins. I got my license at the BYU Ham Radio Club when I was in college, and they had a station there, W70HR, and they had a TH6 DXX beam on a tall tower on the top of the 4th floor roof of the student center. And then they had Drake Twins, T4 and an R4. I think they were C's, T4C. Very nice set of radios. They place for crystals, but I'm not sure what to look for as far as manufacturer. I'm asking this because he's going to possibly buy it. The crystals are used by the local oscillators to change bands. So there have to be some crystals in there to do the changing of the bands. The radio only works on ham bands. Actually, it works on a 500 kilohertz band. So it'll go from like 7.0 to 7.5. Obviously, part of that isn't the ham band. And the marvelous radios, but again, they're tube radios. They're old. They will need to be restored, meaning get the right capacitors in there and so on, because some of those parts wear out. So the crystals are there for the different bands. So if you change, if you put additional crystals, you can also pick up additional bands with the radio. Like you might want to have a crystal in there so you can pick up 10 megahertz so you can get WWV or the 30 meter band. Check the manual for that. These are well-respected radios. You might also check out a magazine called Electric Radio. Electric Radio. It's a little magazine that I dearly love that comes out every month, and it talks about dealing with, restoring, operating, the history behind tube radios. It's cool. Okay, so that's what the extra crystals are for. There should be crystals with the radio, so to be able to operate on the ham bands. Okay. This is from Michael, KD4MAA, Friday, October 5th. Dave, I don't know when you did your video recording. He must be referring to one of my handheld reviews, but they can't be used unless I am wrong, but this video says no more. Yes, I did a video on that too. Oh, it's the UV5RX3. Yes, I did that review just before I found out about the FCC's very strange ruling that came out. The League is working on that. I mean, good grief. I just talked about the Drake twins. They can transmit out of band. All the old radios can. And that's why the Mars frequencies are just outside the ham bands, because most of the equipment at the time could hit them easily. What's going to happen on this? I'm going to make a prediction that the FCC and the ARRL will work something out, because in the very QST issue that they reported on the problem, they also reviewed a Chinese radio that transmitted out of band. Okay, so I should say was capable of transmitting out of band. In the meantime, I would recommend going ahead and using the radios inside the ham bands with your license and all that sort of thing. And then there was a lot of confusion in that ARRL, in the FCC letter also, because it talked about non-type accepted radios. Some of the Chinese radios, they thought they could get by with the type acceptance from an earlier model. They found out, no, you have to go through the process for every model. And then there are others who have done type 90, part 90 type acceptance stuff. Well, that's a type accepted radio. It's not type accepted for part 97. Nothing is. But it's just a mess. It's just a mess. Don't get me started. I should be looking at, let's see, where's the, starting to study for the intermediate license here in the UK. Using your online resources, not sure how the USA translates to the UK syllabus. I guess it must be the same. It is certainly similar, but rules and regulations are different. What is the latest on the Chinese HD bombshell? The ARRL and the FCC are talking. Greetings from Croatia. How are you? Best source for vintage radio parts. Look at the magazine. Look at Electric Radio. They have a bunch of listings in there where you can get these things. Hello from India. Here's a message. What Chinese bombshell? Oh, well, see my video on that. What they said was that, and they were speaking specifically of all the radios coming from China, although they didn't actually use those words, but they described the problem, and the problem is being caused by the Chinese radios. What's happening is that the Chinese manufacturers are marketing these radios to everybody, not just hams or public service or something like that. But you can go down to some place like Cabela's and pick up two-way radios, and they turn out to operate on just too wide a bandwidth. You can end up interfering with public service communications, and you can end up in the middle of the ham band, for that matter. So they said, no, we're trying to remind you, you can't sell radios illegally. Well, of course, it's very complicated. So anyway, that was the Chinese bombshell, and my recommendation at the time was hang loose, continue using your radios. Something reasonable will happen. Okay, I have a very crude homemade 20-meter dipole made out of 14 Romex. It's only about a quarter wavelength up, making some good contacts while only radiating 100 watts. Good deal. Very good deal. Sounds like you're having a lot of success out there with that. And keep it up. Keep doing it. You know, the simplest antennas, I suspect your antenna costs you very little. And it's a perfectly good antenna, and you've got it outside, and you will continue to make good contacts with that. That's great. Okay, Steve Gage, ZS1BBG. ZS would be New Zealand. See you're using the Yaesu FTDX 3000, same as his. Great radio, love it. Yes, I do. I love my 3000. I'm not using the internal sound card setup yet, but would like to try FL Digi via my Tigertronic Signal Link unit. I guess my response would be to that, why not use the internal sound card? Because it's not hard to set that up. There is on the Yaesu website for the FTDX 3000, go find it, and there's a tab in the page toward the top that says files or downloads, and you're going to need the driver. There's also some emulation software in there, so you can see what looks like the front panel of your rig on there, which happens to be an outstanding way of setting the audio parameters for transmit. And then there, let's see, I think it's just the driver and that piece of software, but you got to have that driver. And once you have that, it has two COM ports. One COM port is just an ordinary one, and the other COM port is enhanced. Okay, it's the enhanced one you want, because to the computer that enhanced COM port looks like a sound card. So you tell your software, FLDigi, I find that you also need to use FLRig, F-L-R-I-G, which comes from the same people as FLDigi, that really makes the connection well between FLDigi and the 3000. I should probably do a video about that at some point here. Kind words from Roberto Ellison. Let's see here. Okay, 74 people watching now. Okay, this is from Zed. Okay, I think I talked about it. And you only need one computer to run both. They both run through that enhanced line. So if you have if FLDigi through FLRig will do rig control, so you can change frequencies, modes, etc., from the computer, and it will change them on the FTDX 3000. Okay, this is from John. Could you please help me set up my TYT 8000D to work in QLD, as I have no idea at all? It would be much appreciated when we go camping. The kids have been nagging me. John, I can't help you very much because I don't know how to do that. My only suggestion would be digging through the owner's manual. I've found if you go through the owner's manual word by word, doing the translation between what the Chinese think is English and what we think is English, you can usually figure it out after a period of time. Okay, this is a D-Star question. A new tech getting started with DXing. Well, you've got HF privileges now, but Morse code only. Why can't I use a ham radio without a license, but I can buy one? It's for the same reason that you can't use a car without a license, even though you can buy a car. Okay. That beep was the overvoltage on the solar. Sun just came out here. It's 50 degrees out there, which is quite nice and warm for this time of year. Why is a new technician interested in getting started with DXing? Well, if you want to do like on 2-meter sideband or 6-meter sideband or something like that, take a look at the Yaesu FT991A. Now that's one radio that does it. I know that both ICOM and the other one have similar radios. Why can't I use a ham radio without a license but can buy one? Well, you shouldn't do that, but it's like buying a car before you get a license. You can buy a car. You don't need a license to buy a car. So, New Ham and Recent General, thank you for your videos. You're welcome, Ken. Okay, here's from Dave Borchard. I've been ham radio 45 years, very inactive for decades, retired 6 months ago, wants to get back. He's been listening to HF and a borrowed HF radio and a random length 30-foot wire antenna. You're not going to get that much. Radios today are designed to work with outdoor antennas, and so they don't have strong preamps or amplified antennas or anything like that. A 30-foot piece of random wire will pick up your stronger signals. You need a dipole outside, or vertical, or inverted L, or something like that to receive very well. You need a longer antenna. I found that HF bands are almost always dead. Well, I will tell you that anything above 20 is going to be dead most of the time. When they're open, but most of the time they'll be dead. So that leaves you with 80, 40, 30, and 20. 20 you're going to see active in the daytime most days. 30 is active a lot more. That is Morse and digital only. I got taken to task once for calling it Morse only. It is Morse and digital only. And then 40 meters, which is your all-around good band. And if 40 meters is dead, oh, HF is dead. It's just a fact of life of the bad sunspot cycle we're in. Okay, yes, years ago it was a lot more active on HF. That is true. That doesn't mean that you can't find activity. Mainly CW and AmTOR. AmTOR is long gone. Its replacement, PACTOR, is long gone, except for specialist stuff using proprietary modems. D-Star, yes, D-Star is a form of digital voice and data communications on VHF. It's popular. Watched your episode if there's an app or website that allow me to get on D-Star without having to buy a radio. No. The way the hotspots work, they're like miniature repeaters. So I keep right here, I've got my hotspot up here, and I've got my Radioddity GD77, so I can use the hotspot anytime I want. Okay, let's see. Any other system to get you on a ham radio without buying a radio? There are sites where you can get on the air. Some charge money, some don't. I've never used one, so I couldn't say. I've got my own site here. Let's see, we've got a few more questions here. What are your thoughts on flex radios? Have myself an FTDX 3000D, which is a marvelous radio. And looking at the flex radios are very expensive. They just are. And you're tethered to a computer. You know what I do, the big selling point of the flex radio is the entirely digital receive and transmission chain. But the FTDX 3000 is a computer under the covers. I mean, it is, for me, it's the best receiver I've ever owned in 40 some odd years of hamming. Now I have a little SDR Play receiver up here, which is just another $200 that actually I bought that. They sent me another one to test, but this is the one I used that I bought and paid for. And it's set up to give me the nice panoramic display. Okay, so I can see the entire band at once, which is very, very nice. So look at the Flex Radio. They are expensive. They are very capable. It's sort of like stepping into the cockpit of a 747, you know. I mean, there's so many controls on it. Enjoyed the last video with Trevor about power supplies. That was the one I put up yesterday. I have one more Trevor video. We recorded as many as, I think, 5 videos in one day during the summer. So I've been putting those up at about 1 week intervals. I have one left. And then we'll go to this format in the future. Hi Dave. Oh gee, we met and chatted for a couple minutes at the New Mexico Ham Fest. Any chance you're going to get out of the cold and snow and visit Quartz Fest in January? You know, I am looking at it. I have it on my calendar. I have sister-in-law, brother-in-law, my wife's sister. They're RVers. They're not quite full-time RVers. About 6 months out of the year, they are RVers, and they are going to be in Quartzsite. So I've been trying to pitch to my wife that we want to go visit them and see what they, maybe stay with them a few days right during the middle of the Quartz Fest. So yes, there is a possibility you may be seeing me there. Okay. This actually says, just watched your video attempting to clarify the recent FCC pronouncement on imported Chinese Part 90 HTs. Said that Part 90 radios that can operate on amateur frequencies are now banned. Not quite. Part 90 radios that can operate outside of the amateur bands are banned. If they are entirely inside, then you're okay. Go to powerworks.com. They have been selling Chinese radios for a long time, and they have one there that actually meets the intent of that letter. Yeah, I broadly referred to only the Chinese radios. Yeah, because those are the ones that have been causing the problems. Motorola is not selling a pair of Part 90 HTs in Cabela's. First of all, it cost you $2,000 to get them. They're very, very expensive. Motorola equipment is. But they're selling these cheap Chinese things. So the radios that are causing all the problems that they cite in the letter are the Chinese radios. So there's just a million contradictions between what they said they want to accomplish, what the problem is, and so on and so forth. The League is trying very hard to straighten that out with them. As soon as I hear anything, I'll let you know. I am in touch with Riley Hollingsworth from time to time, and we'll see how that goes on. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, the League hopefully is going to see how we're doing with that. See how are we doing on time. We've got 8 or 9 minutes to go. Hello from Alaska. Hello. Okay. Kind of holding our audience this week. This is good. We've got 74 people watching, and I have found that after the video goes up, it goes up automatically onto YouTube into my regular videos in there. And I'll probably get another 800 or 900 views doing that. I'm trying to keep these to an hour. And when we get to the hour, we'll do the rest of these the next time we get on, which will hopefully be next week. Okay. From Andre Faure, MD. Andre, former license long expired, so I have no choice but then passing the tests in the U.S. Okay, let me see. Oh, former call sign is PY2ASF. So he's from outside the country. Yes, once you're in the U.S., you can. You'll have to take the tech and then the general and then the extra if you want to get all of those privileges back. You can't skip the tech and take the general unless you're already a tech and you've already passed it. Okay. So this is from Dave WQ1H. Enjoy your videos. Need to ask a question. Oh, this is on the ALS 5000 and the MFJ 4275MV power supply. And he has got a question. He has to some specific wiring on that. I'm going to set this one aside and get a better answer for that. Okay, this is from Electorials Electronics. I see people connect the counterpoise wire to the ground screw on the radio itself. I'm assuming we're talking HF here. Or should I connect the counterpoise to the actual BNC connector or the ground screw? I would go ahead and connect it to the ground screw. I mean, if it's VHF, it's best if it's connected right there at the BNC antenna. But at HF, a couple inch spacing in there is not going to matter. Okay, this is from Brad Rich, N6GR. Hi Dave, I enjoyed the videos. Been using them to catch up after a 15-year break from ham radio. Need to bring my knowledge back up to my license class. So he wisely kept his license renewed. Step IR, small IR, laying around as I'm installing its bigger brother. A little vertical, but you live in an HOA neighborhood with the antenna in the center of the backyard of about 28 feet to boundaries such as a fence or house. I simply laid down 50 radials as long as I could make them. Most of my SWRs, I assume SWR in the different bands, about 1.2. The antenna and coil require 4 wires with a DBA25 connector. I think that might be DB25. For automatic antenna tuning, you have to get frequency data to the controller. With the FTDX 3000, I could use Win4 Yaesu. That's not a... I've not heard of that piece of software. I'll have to look that up since I have the 3000. I'm sure there are other ways. It says even though he's surrounded by 2-story homes, he has fun. Competitive in the pile-ups. Do I want to review that antenna? Well, I would love to review an antenna. I don't have one though. If you wanted to send the antenna to me, don't send me something that's 100 pounds, but you know, something light. I did review a buddy pole antenna. A fellow sent me his buddy stick, which is a vertical equivalent of the buddy pole. Sent me his buddy stick, and I reviewed that and sent it back to him. Now, just in the mail yesterday came the Buddy Pole Deluxe, and the reason it came is because I bought and paid for it. So when I do the review on that, it's going to be of something I bought myself. This is also something I just bought myself. This is the little MFJ key, and it's $29. And I'm going to review this because most of the Morse code keys you get these days are extraordinarily expensive. I mean, $300 for a key. So I'm going to review this and see if I like it, and hopefully I will. And this will be wonderful for ham radio to have a decent, fully adjustable key that's quite inexpensive, $30. Okay, we are about out of time. I'm going to do one more. This is from Sunday, November 4th. We're into November. Great. Okay. Hello, Dave. Rick here. I have the room to put up a full wave 160 meter loop. My question is, how should wire be off the ground? Well, as much as you can, actually. There's no way you're going to get it up to half wavelength. That's 80 meters, and that's 240 feet in the air. I'm using the formula 1005. I'm wondering how you got that formula. I'm thinking it should be a half wavelength would be 468 divided by the frequency in megahertz, and you'd cut that in half to get the length of one side. Now, a thing about the loop, it does not need to be exactly square. If you've got some cattywampus corner for it, yeah, it'll affect the radiation pattern a little bit. It doesn't need to be square. The ideal shape for a loop antenna is a circle. Unfortunately, you just can't really do that with a wire antenna, so most people do squares. You can do a triangle, do a square, do one with 5 sides, anything. They're very, very flexible. Now, on 160 meters, probably also 80 meters, and to some extent 40 meters, you're going to have most of your radiation going up. So that'll be good for NBIS. Note that on 160 meters, a lot of the work is done via ground wave, and ground wave requires a vertical antenna. And the way people put vertical antennas together on 160, they'll have the tallest thing they can get. They'll put capacity loading at the top and inductive loading at the bottom. And then at least you're vertical, so you're getting ground wave out from the thing. But much experimentation is called for when you do those things. Okay, we are at the noon of the hour. No, we're at 1 o'clock. So I want to thank everybody for this live stream. I'm just looking at the last of the comments. Oh my, been quite a few. Let me see if I can go back through here. Okay, from Alaska, was planning to buy a 2-meter radio. Is the Baofeng UV5R a good choice? It's almost become a standard now. It's they're pretty cheap. They make some other radios that are nice. Dave picked up a used Flex 1500 and enjoy it. Good. Yes, the noise filters are nice. Just went and bought a ham radio specific mobile. Yeah, okay. Checking in from 9LAN. Hello, Robert. Let's see, I've got 15. Let's see if I buy a 591. Is it only sufficient for technicians, or will it still make me happy when you eventually get general privileges? Yes, it is a full-featured radio. John, best height for a hex beam. John, mine's up 20 feet, because if you watch my video on the hex beam, that's the length of a piece of aluminum pipe, thick aluminum pipe I was able to get. A Schedule 40 aluminum pipe. It's thick, it's strong, and it's a 20-foot, what they call stick of pipe. Cost me like $60. Okay. QRP recently upgraded. Had someone ask for the one that closes with screws rather than wire ties, so made it for him. Turned out nice. Okay, so this is the fellow who's making the 3D printed QCX cases. I've got them. I reviewed them in a video. Let's see. Mobile button. Let's see. If you set up audio chain right up, nobody can tell the difference. They're talking about the Flex radios. Dave, if you put any videos together on limited space lofts, please. I'd love to put a video there if I had a really clear answer. Sweet Key, yes it is. Heard the same. Several videos going into great detail setting up the audio chain. Hello from Orlando. Hello, Orlando. I want to get down there and go through Harry Potter World one of these days. Go Delta Loop. Welcome to the greatest hobby. Thanks again, Chuck. Thanks. N7KON. Have you looked at the Wolf River coils and antennas? I did look on their website. I've not tried it. Here's someone who's had several in the club, have the 991 and love it. Okay. Thank you so very much for watching. I do want to point out that there is a coffee cup mug that you can get that's supposed to be listed just below my videos on the YouTube pages. I've had some trouble. People are saying the link isn't working, so I'll try and get that fixed. And also, if you go to dcasler.com/support, there's the Patreon, the web, the tip jar, a list of Amazon links that you can go to that I get a little bit of a finder's fee for, and other ways like that that you can support Ham Radio Answers. Thank you very, very much for watching, and until we next meet, 73.